David was a man after God's own heart, and he ruled with strength and courage. In the years ahead, David would bring many victories and great peace to the land of the Israelites by following the commands of God. But he also made a serious and painful mistake that would result in harsh and bitter consequences for him and his future descendants. It all began one evening as he was walking on the roof of his palace that overlooked the city of Jerusalem. He saw a married woman named Bathsheba bathing in her house below. She was so beautiful that he sent messengers to her home and asked her to come to the palace. She stayed the night with King David, and the next morning he sent her home. Later, Bathsheba sent word to David that she was pregnant. David knew that he had committed a terrible sin in the sight of God, but what he did next only made it worse. When he found out that Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, was fighting in battle for him, he sent for him to come to the palace. When Uriah arrived, he refused to go to his own home and slept in the entrance of the palace with all the rest of the servants. When David saw that Uriah would not go home, he sent word to his commander, Joab, to place Uriah on the front lines of the battle where the fighting was most fierce. Just as King David had planned, the next day Uriah was placed on the front lines and soon killed in battle while defending Israel. Bathsheba mourned for her husband, and after her period of mourning was over, David sent for Bathsheba, and they were soon married. David's sinful behavior greatly displeased the Lord. Therefore, he sent a prophet named Nathan to King David. Nathan told David, "There were 2 men in a certain town, one rich and one poor. The rich man had many sheep and cattle, but the poor man only had one little ewe lamb that he had bought. He raised it and grew it up with his children. He loved the little lamb so much that it shared his food, drank from his cup, and slept in his arms. A visitor came to the rich man's house, and instead of taking one of his own animals to feed the visitor that night, he took the ewe lamb from the poor man to feed to his visitor. When David heard this story, he became enraged and said, 'As surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this deserves to die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over for doing such a thing to another man.' Then Nathan the prophet said to David, 'You are that man. The Lord God of Israel says, was it not enough that I anointed you to be king over all Israel? I gave you everything you could have ever wanted, and I would have given you even more. Why have you hated the word of the Lord by doing such evil in his eyes? Now, because of what you have done, there will always be trouble and conflict in your family.' Then David said to Nathan, 'I have sinned greatly against my Lord.' And Nathan replied, 'You are not going to die, because the Lord has forgiven your sin. But because of your sin, your son born to you by Bathsheba will not live.' David's son was born. 7 days later, the child died. David and Bathsheba were heartbroken. About a year later, Bathsheba became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. They named him Solomon, and the Lord loved him very much. David reigned for 40 years, doing what was just and right for all people. He loved God and walked faithfully before the Lord with all of his heart and soul.